Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Next Generation Antioxidant Oligonol. My name is Max Langhurst, your moderator and a functional medicine consultant at QL Labs. Everyone is on mute to avoid background noise. However, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions at any time by typing them into the Q&A section of the control panel located at the bottom of your screen. I'd now like to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Robert Silverman. Dr. Silverman graduated magna cum laude over the University of Bridgeport College of Chiropractic and has a Master's of Science in Human Nutrition. His extensive list of educational accomplishments includes designations as a certified nutrition specialist, certified clinical nutritionist, certified sports nutritionist as well. Dr. Silverman is a diplomate with the American Clinical Board of Nutrition and the Chiropractic Board of Clinical Nutrition. He's an internationally known speaker and author with full-time private practice in White Plains, New York, where he specializes in the treatment of joint pain with innovative science-based non-surgical approaches in functional nutrition. Dr. Silverman is also on the advisory board for the Functional Medicine University. He's a health contributor to Fox News Radio and has appeared on Fox and Friends, Fox News, NBC, and other media-related outlets. He is awarded the prestigious 2015 Sports Chiro of the Year by the ACA Sports Council, and in 2016 he published Inside Out Health, A Revolutionary Approach to Your Body. I'll now pass this webinar to our speaker, Dr. Robert Silverman. Please begin.
Max, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really look forward to the next 45 minutes, really speaking a lot about oligonol. It's truly the next generation antioxidant. You know, what's fascinating to me about oligonol is that it supports circulation and it allows for a healthy response to exercise-induced inflammation. Inflammation is a key component, so we will hit certain specific areas in this webinar. And if one thing can resonate with all the attendees and those who listen afterwards live or Memorex, any positive effect or modulation of inflammation is going to be a true key to our functional medicine landscape. In addition, oligonol is known to improve skin, decrease fatigue, and fabulously increase endurance. Oligonol is truly, and we're going to go over several of them, supported by 30 human clinical trials. It happens to be also a patented low molecular weight polyphenolinic extract derived from lychee nuts, about 85% of that, and combined with about 15% green tea. It has excellent absorption and multi-anti-aging benefits. So it truly addresses the three major causes of aging, i.e., number one, poor blood circulation, number two, oxidative stress, and as said before, number three, inflammation. So let's move on a little bit, and I always like to start every kind of presentation with a quote. Jim Rome, he's a personal fav, if you will. He said, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. And I mention this to many of my patients and many of my doctors, because when you think about it, it doesn't matter if you have 10 cents or $1 billion. If you don't have health, you have nothing. So essentially, health is wealth. So in the functional medicine model, which we're all in, because that's why we're on this webinar, we really have to look at the concept of what we're giving. We're giving health. We're giving health from inside out, inside the body. We are very unique in that we're actually having a collaboration with our potential patients. We're personalizing and individualizing our prescription supplement ingredient recommendations. And ultimately, we are looking to get what I like to consider root cause dysfunction or root cause solution. And that's what we're going to look at, a lot of these ingredients and hidden gems within fruits and vegetables, i.e., once again, oligonol. So my main objective today is truly to go through the science of oligonol, enable everybody here to bridge it to what I like to refer to as Monday morning application. So we're not going to just hit the science. I'm going to really break down the science and bridge it so you're very comfortable and you know how to elucidate an excellent explanation to all your prospective patients. So what's really the problem in America today? I mean, we could have a litany list, but let's pick some of the bigger problems within our healthcare system and our patient base. Problem number one is sugar consumption. The average American consumes a minimum of 160 pounds of sugar per year. That's more than many of our patients weigh. Sugar is a toxin, period. I say that every day. Sugar is a toxin. It is everywhere. You know, there are no known requirements to consume cane sugar. It happens to not only be everywhere, but it's growing so much in our younger population. The average child consumes 34 teaspoons of sugar per day. The number one ingestion or form of ingestion of calories is high fructose corn syrup. That is about 20% of our caloric intake to date. So much so that in 2014, the US government changed the food label, and now high fructose corn syrup is able to be labeled as fructose. Wheat consumption. Well, we all know gluten, it means glue in Latin, but the wheat in North America is without question very adverse and deleterious to anybody's overall health. That consumption of gluten doesn't get broken down. Gluten's proteins are too big. Gluten causes issues in the gut. Our gut health is a critical element. 70% of our immune cells are in our gut. Our gut is the key house where we have our macro and micronutrient absorption. So we really have to avoid wheat and or gluten. In addition to that, gluten is now sprayed with Roundup, which has 18% glyphosate. Glyphosate is an ingredient that the World Health Organization has called cancer-causing. In addition, caloric sweeteners are about 142 pounds per year. We're talking about all those artificial sweeteners. Sugar leads us down a road to diabetes. Artificial sweeteners are almost 2 times faster getting us to that road of diabetes. If you're concerned about your gut health and your gut microbiota, caloric sweeteners like aspartame and saccharin, sweet and low, and the like are without question going to damage your gut health and your gut lining. Non-steroid anti-inflammatories. I must have a conversation, you know, with a chiropractic background that I have, and I see musculoskeletal injuries every day about NSAIDs. The takeaway on NSAIDs are very simple. NSAIDs, non-steroid anti-inflammatories, Aleve, Advil, ibuprofen, do decrease pain, but they impair healing. Nutraceuticals, like we talk about, do decrease pain, but promote healing. Which do you want? Just recently in the literature, it provided that ibuprofen increased the incidence of heart attack by 31%. We live in a medicated world. We live in what we like to refer to as Pharmageddon. We also live in a very toxic world. You can't be a clean fish in a dirty bowl. We live in a toxic world. Our liver is polluted. And unfortunately, the average American is exposed to 9 chemicals through their 9 healthcare products, which open them up to 123 chemicals daily, all which can be absorbed in 26 seconds. So we're living in a very toxic world. Unfortunately for us, our forefathers, fortunately for them, we're not exposed to these type of toxins. And obviously, one of the bigger things that maybe we don't talk about enough in functional medicine is stress. United States of diabetes. Right now in the United States, 52.3% of the United States have some form of blood sugar dysregulation. 14.3% have diabetes. 38% have some form of pre-diabetes or pre-diabetes. By the year 2030, America will have 50% of its population being purely diabetic. With this increase in diabetes and this increase in weight or obesity, which we'll cover in a moment, it's been coined by Dr. Mark Hyman, the United States of Diabetes City, because of this parallel growth. When did this all start? Well, we can trace it back to 1971, when the government wanted to stop heart attack and got all the major cardiologists, and those cardiologists came in and said, no more fat, eat carbohydrates. We know that literature was faulty. We know there was money that was passed on that literature. And since then, we've had this prodigious increase in obesity and diabetes since that. So carbohydrates, clearly, if it's a quality carbohydrate from a vegetable, it's one thing. Too much fruit carbohydrate isn't even good, which really piggybacks on the idea of when we get to the oligonol, the extract of a fruit, which is very sugary, but we're getting the essence of its nutrients. Obesity and diabetes since 1971 have been on this rocket ship growth. Obesity in America is a problem. 4 out of 10 women are now classified as obese. 15% of worldwide women are classified as obese. 35% of men in America are obese, whereas 11% of it is worldwide. Obesity can trigger diabetes and lead to heart disease. Obesity is considered an inflammatory disorder, so much so that obesity may be viewed as a low-grade systemic inflammatory disease. Obesity is actually defined as a disease according to Obesity Review's May 2017 by recognizing the primary agent as food rather than infectious microbes. It's been widely accepted a model of disease. Lipotoxicity. Lipotoxicity refers to the idea of fat truly being over organs, or what we like to refer to as visceral fat. These visceral fats over organs, your heart, your liver, your pancreas, and the like. And when it innervates and infiltrates those organs, that's when we lead to failing organ health. Farmageddon. Max and I talk about this all the time. Farmageddon Day what in 2017? In 1985, the US government allowed pharmaceutical companies to advertise, and since then we've had an exponential increase in the use of pharmacies. 1997, they allowed them to make infomercials and not list all the side effects. 70% of Americans have at least one prescription drug. We are in the US less than 5% of the world's population, consuming 52% of the world's drugs, 80% of the world's opiates. So we have this anti-aging promise that we hear so much. All our patients are running around looking for it, and they should be coming to us for our Oligonol. You know, they were looking to discover the Hollywood secret, the thing that the stars use to make them look younger, the before and after. So a lot of times they say Botox may be it. They may say more makeup may be it. Get that special lighting. I personally think that it's all a bunch of cow manure, if you will. So what do I suggest? One of my favorite ingredients and supplements to recommend is Oligonol. It's the world's first low molecule polyphenol. As a polymer of a polyphenol, it has a low absorption in the living body, and it is converted into the oligomere, which has a higher living body absorption and revitalization. Oligonol has extraordinarily good absorption and a wider antioxidant and anti-aging action than general polyphenol extracts. Oligonol has 4 main actions. Number 1, blood flow improvement effect. It decreases sensitivity to cold, stiff necks, and the like. It helps with recovery and an improvement effect. It aids in beautifying and whitening effects for wrinkles, blemishes, and freckles, and it has a positive effect on metabolic syndrome. So there's a lot of published human research on Oligonol. In this particular study, the conclusion was very interesting in that the results suggest that Oligonol ameliorates metabolic syndrome by reducing visceral fat obesity, what we talked about before in lipotoxicity. There was another study done on metabolic syndrome and cardiovascular and peripheral circulation. Their conclusion was Oligonol improved peripheral circulation as measured by skin temperature changes using infrared thermography. And they really spoke about its enhanced NO2 production. Another study talks about it in hypoglycemia. The results were positive. Essentially, they found out there was a positive effect on postprandial hypoglycemia with Oligonol. Oligonol was presented at the 15th International Symposium on Atherosclerosis. This study indicated that lychee polyphenol supplementation could inhibit the fat absorption and improve postprandial hypolipidemia in healthy subjects. In addition, what I really like most about this particular study about its effect on MMP activation, matrix metalloproteinases, they're your body's own proteolytic enzymes. They're actually damaging when released healthy collagen. The study here suggested that Oligonol may play a preventative role in atherosclerosis because of its inhibition effect on MMP activation. We have a list of over 30 different studies, and if you need that list, Max would be very happy to get them to you. So truly, what is oligonol? Well, oligonol is abbreviated from the name Oligonol polyphenol. It is essentially a comparatively low molecular weight. It's a low molecular functional material where the polyphenol polymer extracted from lychee fruits can be more easily absorbed in the body. So interestingly enough, the extract gets absorbed easier than the fruit. You're getting the essence of the nutrients that help you without the extra calories or the high sugar content sometimes seen in lychee nuts. It is without question the world's first low molecular polyphenol that can be industrial produced. It has excellent absorption in the body. It has a high antioxidant and revitalization effect. It can be absorbed quite quickly, and interesting in that it has a high density of polyphenol, can be maintained in the blood by continuous consumption. So the manufacturing method, we don't speak about that enough in supplements. We really have to speak to whatever we're saying is on the label is in the body. So detailed checks of production management, pesticides are produced in primary processing factories. True that it showed an extraction and purification of a low molecular lychee polyphenol. And this was a very unique technology developed by the makers of oligonol in collaboration with Nagasaki University. So its constituents: content of a monomer, dimer, and a trimer in general polyphenol extract less than 10%. Oligonol increases the content of the monomer, dimer, and trimer in the living bodies up to 40%. This was through the world's first technology. Polyphenol polymer is converted into the low molecular monomer and oligomer. So oligonol abundantly contains an oligomer of many different contents. Interestingly enough, it increases or rises by 2 to 8 times compared to existing polyphenol products. The oligomer increases significantly when converted to low molecular weight. The result, oligonol, Monday morning takeaway, has anti-aging power. So these polyphenols in nature, interesting in that you look at these different polyphenol concentrations after consuming oligonol, nearly 4 times that of a polyphenol of conventional polymers. So it has true beneficial effects. Changes in structure. Oligonol is obviously made from a lychee nut fruit. Quite tasty, personally. So immature fruits commonly have a bitter and astringent tastes. So the source of this astringent taste is the short-chain polyphenol polymers and monomers that are easily dissolved in water. During the fruit ripening process, polyphenols are polymerized, becoming insoluble in water and losing the bitterness while becoming sweeter due to the increase in sugar content. Polyphenol containing products available in the market obtained from fully ripened fruits. Majority of polyphenol content is long-chain polyphenol polymers. This content of easily absorbable monomers and oligomers are less than 10%. So oligonol contains almost 35% of monomers, dimers, and trimers obtained. So interesting in the manufacturing of this short chain polyphenol, in that quality control strictly performed from the first step of the processing truly ensured traceability. Once the lychee nut was processed, the resulting lychee extract was sent to the factory in Japan. They then processed it in various steps, including the reduction of the polyphenol polymer size, concentration, and purification. It's produced in a GMP regulated facilities, ensuring compliance with the highest international standards of safety, hygiene, and quality control. Now, I know when I speak to my doctors who are on here and listening, they understand the quality. I know it's a tough thing to express to the patients, but that is a key component to letting them understand that whatever you carry through your research In your due diligence, you're ensuring what's on the label is in the bottle. They can't guarantee that for most companies, and most bottles they just get off the shelf. So let's look at these beautiful beneficial effects. It has a wonderful antioxidant effect in the living body, prevention and improvement of the metabolic syndrome, blood flow improvement. It's great for fatigue, great for skin, and includes a variety of anti-aging actions. And here's what it looks like. Metasol. Here's our oligonol ingredient in our formulation, which we call Metasol. So let's talk briefly about some of the wonderful benefits of oligonol and Metasol. Number one, it enhances circulation. It increases nitric oxide production due to the relaxation of blood vessels. It also supports cardiovascular health with oligonol's effect on circulation, oxidation, and inflammation. It lessens fatigue and increases endurance, help reducing the perception of exertion, and maybe the biggest takeaway, tell everybody out there over 40, reduces wrinkles and brown spots. So here's what you'll see on the back of the label. It'll speak about the veggie caps. It'll tell you the serving size. It'll explain what it is. And you'll see it's a specific registered trademark of Amino Up Chemical Company, Ltd. So where does oligonol fall in the sports genre? I mean, we don't have to have Olympic athletes to think we're in the sports genre. Just people doing 15,000 steps a day, which incidentally is 7 miles, constitutes somebody who's exercising. And that's our goal. One of the biggest parts of the equation to overall health and therapeutic lifestyle and functional medicine is the exercise part, because the exercise part has shown to be critical in overall health. And that's something that I try to remind patients every day to do. So let's look at it in the sports genre. You know, for fatigue in athletes, number one, they did a test overview. They had a single blind placebo-controlled crossover with 47 amateur athletes, a fair amount of male versus female from ages 8 to 22. The subjects were male and female track stars. They both participated in short and long-term distance and field. They randomly divided groups A and B. They took 2 tablets. Group A received placebo capsules for the first 26 days, followed by a 9-day washout. Incidentally, placebo in Latin means to be free of pain. Oligonol capsules were then administered in the second 26-day period. Group B received placebo and oligonol capsules in the reverse order. So let's look at the results. The results were interesting, were evaluated with a questionnaire, and the conclusion was an improvement of feeling of fatigue and fatigue recovery each time in the oligonol group. The condition significantly deteriorated when oligonol administration was discontinued. This is the standard bearer of a blind study, and interesting, in both groups used it versus one group didn't and one group did. And what was great about it, they took both groups, once again, and divided between the placebo and the oligonol, and the results equaled each group. So that is a great takeaway. Oligonol works. So fatigue in recovering athletes to continue. The level and enhancement of exercise performance or lessening for improvement of fatigue was apparent by the method of RPE measure and VAS, visual analog scale. Studies were referred to the guideline of the Society of Fatigue and Science, and the results were presented at specific symposiums and scientific journals worldwide. Doping test. More than 170 substances banned by the World Doping Agency, including drug-related compounds, diuretics, anabolic, etc. Oligonol does not contain any banned substance. Athletes can take, professional athletes, Division I college athletes, anybody taking a drug test, athletes can take oligonol without any concerns. How about for cardiovascular support? Let's see how it reads there. Interesting, people suffering from cold hands and feet are likely individuals with some kind of blood sugar disorder. Some factors that may influence it are smoking, stress, hormone, hypertension, arterial sclerosis. So endothelial functions of blood vessels are needed to maintain microcirculation. Here we saw an increase in oxidative stress due to hyperglycemia may induce malfunction of the endothelium, resulting in a reduction of the production of nitric oxide. So let's take a look. peripheral blood circulation improvement. They used a thermographic picture of a 43-year-old healthy male. They just used 600 milligrams once. There was a clear increase in superficial body temperature. Blood flow increased the result of dilation of peripheral vessels. Oligonol was shown very quickly to be a vasodilator, effective for a variety of vasoconstrictive systems and symptoms, cold hands and feet, shoulder discomfort, and diabetes vascular problems. Interesting in that a low dose study, which I love, because so many times I've seen patients say, well, I read this particular item, and if I took X, it would be good. I wanted to do it quicker, so I took 4X. That doesn't always work. I'm a big believer in dose, intensity, frequency, and duration in proper dosage when dealing with supplements in functional medicine. So interesting, they had the 34-year-old and a 41-year-old healthy male volunteer who did not consume supplements. So pre-treatment, both subjects took 50 milligrams twice a day for a week prior to the test. The dosage was 50 milligrams once. The observation, once again in thermographic pictures of arms and palm, very simply, there was a clear increase in the superficial body temperature observed in 30 to 120 minutes after taking Oligonol, just 50 milligrams once. How about its antioxidant effect? Well, we know that polyphenols have a typical strong antioxidant effect. It helps remove excess of free radicals and prevents lifestyle diseases and aging. It is without question a high bioavailability of oligonol that helps control production of oxidants in the blood. So the protection of the blood vessel endothelium, endothelial cells are able to generate nitric oxide regularly in physiological condition in the culture of endothelial cells. However, the capacity of the endothelium to produce NO2 decreases when glucose is in high concentration. You will find that when glucose is high in any concentration, all sorts of systems and agents will decrease. Sugar is a toxin that provides the body with excess inflammation. So the protection of the blood vessel endothelium, what they did was to possibly avoid the reduction of NO2 in the endothelium, they added 100 milligrams of oligonol. The oligonol induced the activation of SOD. SOD, superoxide dismutase, is fabulous, especially in phase 2 of detoxification and increasing endothelium production. Based on these findings, oligonol protected blood vessel endothelium function from damages produced from conditions such as high glucose content. What about weight management? Boy, oh boy, if we just used it for weight management, we would be busy. Everybody's trying to lose weight. So metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is probably one of the bigger takeaways. We're talking about waistline size of 40 or larger for men and 34, I think 35 or larger for females, non-pregnant females, triglycerides over 150 mgs, hypocholesterolemia under 40 milligrams for men and under 50 milligrams for women. Women have actually higher HDL. They have a higher HDL because of estrogen. Then it's about 135 over 85 in blood pressure and over 110. If you have 3 or 5 of these, you are going to be considered with someone that has prediabetes and metabolic syndrome. Visceral Adiposities. We spoke about that before. The increase of visceral fat, more influence for health than of fat under the skin. So the superficial fat, the pinch and inch, we can get rid of by running around the block. The visceral fat damages the viscera, and that is really going to be affected more by diet and or supplementation. A lot of these proteins are called bad factors are made by the increase in visceral fat, like TNF. These proteins promote bad symptoms like block blood vessels and high blood sugar levels. So they did a test overview. They took 18 male and female adults showing signs of metabolic syndrome, divided randomly into 2 groups, the oligonol group and the placebo group. They supplemented with oligonol and placebo every day for 10 weeks, respectively. The evaluations were physical study, blood test, abdominal computer tomography, and they performed before supplementation 5 and 10 weeks after starting the supplement period. The results were robust. Oligonol group showed significant decreases of subcutaneous fat and visceral fat areas compared to those before supplement and abdominal CT. Significant reductions of visceral fat, abdominal circumference, and subcutaneous fat. Well, what about safety? Well, we know that the lychee fruit, a raw material in oligonol, has a high safety factor. The safety was confirmed by the safety test phase 1 conducted in healthy subject. This was a 3-month exploratory clinical test. It represented a 90-day repeated oral administration toxicity test, reverse mutation test, and micronucleus test. It's certified as an NDI, a new dietary ingredient by the US FDA, Food and Drug Administration, since 2007, and it's grass, not the green stuff outside, but grass being generally recognized as safe status since 2009. And once again, they repeated all the tests that we mentioned before. Awards. It's an award-winning supplement. Those awards very much are spoken to the idea that oligonol is selected as, in 2008, in the Neutral Award as the best product. It was awarded the prestigious 10th Neutral Award at the Natural Products Expo West, the largest trade show in the supplement industry. An award created to reward and recognize companies investing in rigorous and measurable scientific studies to prove the efficacy of their proprietary ingredients and technology. In addition, ICPH 2007 award, the International Conference on Polyphenol and Health, a scientific event to extensively discuss research on functional food related to health enhancement and prevention of diseases. There are a litany list of all the different references, and Max has more if you guys are interested. A little section I just wanted to talk about real fast. Max was nice enough to mention my book. It's called Inside Out Health. You can get it on Amazon. It's an Amazon #1 bestseller in ebooks and holistic medicine, and one of the first functional medicine doctors to be able to give a talk at Google. And there we were. And I didn't know. You're wondering why we took the shot of me standing. The rules are you're not allowed to stand up at Google. And as you can see, I broke the rules. And we really talked a lot about functional medicine down there. I always like to, before questions, end with a quote. A mind stretched by a new idea never returns to its original dimensions. Or as my staff likes to say, when you take everything out of the suitcase and you spread it and stretch it, it's just not going to fit that tightly and that comfortably in there. You may have to get a bigger suitcase. So if you have any questions, I left ample time for questions and maybe a quick little discussion where that would go and some other protocols.
Thank you so much, Dr. Silverman. Really appreciate the time taken here. We're now going to begin answering the questions submitted during the presentation. The first one here, it's mentioned here, since oligonol reduces visceral fat so well, do you have to worry at all about the release of toxins promoting a healing crisis in patients?
Great question. So in my office, no, but here's my recommendation, and I'm sure Max can piggyback on this. We have no problem using oligonol with our detox products and/or our detox product. We're big proponents of detox with that. But to answer your question, no, but I detox all my patients twice a year.
Great. Another one mentioned, would this product be helpful for a patient with Raynaud's?
Interesting. Raynaud's phenomenon or syndrome. You're going to get some bang for the buck with that. You know, what I like about oligonol is its versatility. It works through so many different systems. It's a top 5 supplement. So everybody talks about fish oils. We all know to do that. We talk about vitamin D. We all know to do that, probiotic and everything. But what are the things that we don't talk about enough that can work through several different systems? Well, one of them, clearly, in my top 3, is without question oligonol.
That's great. And Rob, one of the few last ones we have time for here, how can I make sure, it's a 2-part question, how can I make sure I get enough antioxidants each day? And how do I know if I need more antioxidants?
Great question. There aren't a lot of antioxidant tests. You can never have too many antioxidants. One thing, oligonol is high in the total ORAC scale. It's about 6,800. The total ORAC scale goes through 5 different fields now. We only used to talk about the peroxidate field. We've gone past that now, and we're talking about the 5 different. So that's why we talk about the total ORAC, because not every fruit and vegetable enables us to register on it, so we have to look at the full scale. So that's one. As far as antioxidants, well, you know, one of the better tests is unfortunately symptomology. If you're wrinkling, if you're aging, if you're having a breakdown, if we don't have antioxidants, our free radicals are running. So let's go through this process. Every day we have cellular physiological processes going on. Mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. The more efficient our mitochondria is, less free radicals, which is a byproduct of it. So we still have free radicals even if we are LeBron James or Arnold Schwarzenegger in his heyday. So for me, I want to blunt as many of these free radicals, hence the idea of oligonol. Now, I agree you can get it in food. I mean, Max knows I have eaten lychee nuts before. The problem with a lychee nut is that, one, you're going to have to eat several or a nice amount, not a plethora, but a nice amount to get oligonol, to get the amount of oligonol you're getting in a pill. Plus, you're going to get a lot of fructose and a lot of sugar. So we know that we need some specific antioxidants. What a better choice than the oligonol? To really answer the question, I would recommend taking it every day. I think because we're under toxic overload, you know, mitochondria doesn't function well. We're all, especially in the Northeast, probably producing too many antioxidants.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Dr. Silverman. And thank you for everyone for attending today's webinar, the Next Generation Antioxidant Oligonol. You'll be able to view this webinar on demand and others like it by visiting QOLLabs.com and clicking on the tab called Education. We'll also be sending out a newsletter list as well. So if you're on par with that, a link will also be sent out. And I just want to say on behalf of QO Labs and our presenter, Dr. Rob Silverman, thank you so much for joining us. And once again, have a great rest of your day and enjoy.